that stuff.
I should. There you are. You ready? Ready? Ready to go? Okay. All right, everybody has an agenda, and the first item on the agenda is the adoption of the 4K to 12 ELA adoption. We've kind of done that, been there a couple times already. So I'm going to suggest that we put that in the consent agenda for the board meeting. I don't think that needs any discussion at all. I mean, we just went through this last month, and I think maybe even the month before. So, okay, is that all right? I'll put it in the, who makes up, you help make up.
Yeah.
Certainly the agenda.
Well, if we approve it here, it goes into the consent agenda.
Okay. All those in favor?
Okay, so just a reminder that you're voting on, we're doing final approval on the K-5 curriculum, the 6-8 curriculum, and the 9-12 curriculum.
Right.
Those things we really kind of hashed. And the 4K information, this is just informational for 4K. There's no voting on that part.
Okay.
That is a pilot that they're going to do next year.
Okay.
Okay.
All those in favor of the adoption of?
Well, did you moved it, I'll second it so that you have them, so you can take them up.
Okay.
Okay.
I moved it, you seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Put it in the consent agenda then.
Yes.
World languages curriculum. I did read, and I talked with Heidi and Katie about the foreign language. I guess they call it world language now. But it sounds like what's happening to me, that it's kind of being consolidated and standardized across borders and throughout the school system. And that's why you're now getting texts and other material that are going to be used consistently throughout. Do you want to just enlighten us as to?
Sure, the last number of years, we've been working on our curriculum and aligning them to proficiency levels. So they're aligned to the Wisconsin state standards for learning world languages, and then they're aligned to what a student should be able to do at each level. So
Can I just stop and quickly introduce you?
Oh, yeah, I do that, please.
This is Jess Swemke, who is our department chair and high school Spanish teacher, and Molly Johnson, who is a middle school Spanish teacher and department chair. So very grateful for the work that they've led throughout first semester and into the better part of second semester, collecting stakeholder feedback and really looking at a ton of resources and, you know, for the first time really ever looking at a consistent, congruent, rich resources for our teams, which is really great. So my apologies before we went any further.
Yeah.
It worked very well.
Okay.
So we were looking for something that was, kind of aligned to what we do with our students and more about the standards and the proficiency levels. And a lot of like the hardcover textbooks that we reviewed just didn't really like meet what our expectations were.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of why we hadn't had these texts for a while, like textbooks. We've been like trying to pull in some real world examples and things like that. So what we came upon was Linko, which is they're constantly putting out new materials, and like they even have like things on AI and everything, like different units on that. So it's like as something comes in, they start to create some materials for it. Everything it's not only online, but it's a majority of it is online because it's very interactive. So we liked that we were able to basically look at our students' proficiency and kind of align it with some of the activities that they have created. And it's for practice of all the modes of communication. And it's all integrated. And it's not like a lot of textbook companies, they had like hardcover texts and then they would just put it online, and it really wasn't very interactive. So that like when they started putting things online, it just was like a textbook but online. Whereas this it was created first with the online version, so.
One thing to consistency, we are looking at adopting Linko for French and Spanish, middle school and high school, and even our sixth grade curriculum too. So we think how great to have the same platform for all of our kids. So once they start in sixth grade, kind of get a feel for it, then they can jump right in seventh and be familiar with it.
So how's it up to muster with in other schools and that? How well does it perform across the, across the state? Or I'm sure there are other schools.
Yeah, I briefly, in the fall, I went to the fall conference for world language teachers. And there I was at a session about, assessing students' proficiency levels and everything. And I happened to ask this presenter, well, what textbook do you use? Because we need to look at adopting a textbook and we want something that would align with, the standards and proficiency levels. And that's where I got the information on Linko. And so the Madison School District is using it this year. And then I think there's another one near Madison that's also considering it, but it's rather new in Wisconsin, but it has been out on the.
I would guess if Madison's using it, it's a pretty good recommendation, isn't it?
Yep, Sun Prairie also right there.
Okay.
They've been very easy to work with so far, very responsive with everything. I don't know, do you want to talk a little bit about?
Well,
the
just-
sixth grade?
Yeah, I've been working with our rep, her name's Sarah. She's been wonderful. Message us all night long. Any question we have, she gets back to us immediately. Super helpful. So right away, we're like, okay, if we need any tech support, she's there, or someone from her team can help us out. We met with her this last week during in-service time. We did a call with her. She kind of walked us through more about the platform and how to access it, and had some questions for her, and she was wonderful. And so that has been really helpful. But yeah, I've been working with her with the sixth grade curriculum, and we kind of gave her our scope and sequence and our learning targets for sixth grade. And she was able to, within a short amount of time, come back with all kinds of resources and links to different activities that the kids can do in sixth grade even, that align with what they have, with our can-do statements. And it just is very interactive. And it's a great intro to language for a little bit of French, a little bit of Spanish, which is what our sixth graders get.
Thank you very much for doing the research and front loading on this for the curriculum review. Couple questions, housekeeping mainly. Why did you choose a 6-year license request?
That was, okay, so 6 years was like where you get like the most bang for your buck.
Sure.
So, because we would need to purchase like a per student license. If there's any extras that we need to, it could be individual licenses as we go. So we're still trying to figure out like what that number looks like for our department right now, for next year.
And my follow-up would be, what is the price point? Because I don't see a price listed here.
Well, there was a price, yeah.
Was there?
Yeah, there is.
There should be, yeah, there's an updated.
Yeah, here.
So,
Yeah, I think it gives a general, and then once we would have specific numbers, we're still waiting for all of those enrollment totals to be finalized in our middle school and our high school for world language participation. So once we would have the final, but there should be a general.
I thought I saw that, but maybe not.
I didn't see it. So that's my second question.
Maybe it's.
My third question would be, how are we gonna be transparent to our community when we're completely on the websites? Are we giving access to like community members, like randomly? Because if we just do a 30-day window of access in the middle of summer to a website, we're not gonna get the breadth that we need to have with people seeing this. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, I'm saying we have to figure out a way to bridge that. And I understand the textbook way is kind of outdated at this point too, but we need to somehow, because they're gonna be using the Chromebooks at school, and then they're not gonna be bringing them home, so
Yeah, that was my question.
their parents
too,
aren't gonna
yeah.
be seeing any of this content. And you said that, the obviously the content's changing or updating, which is great, wonderful, but the parents need to see what they're getting into, or to help them even too, I mean.
well, about that, so they actually have a set curriculum that we can follow
Mhm.
for like through the first 4 years. And we have bound copies of those, so you can see what the activities are. but it's just not as interactive because some of those things are actually in the online portal where they can like record the responses, have conversations, you know, and all of that. And when we met with Sarah the other day, we asked about like, are we able to suggest some content or whatever? And she said that they're constantly adding things to the library, but they're not like changing anything within our course. The great thing about this is that we can customize the course. Like we would sit down with them and say, this is our scope and sequence.
Yeah, are
this is
you
what
actually
we
getting
do.
scope and sequence?
And then- And then they would take that and align it, like, you know, somewhat what they did with the sixth graders. And so that's all included in the bid.
They're doing the
And
alignment for you as well?
And professional development, they will show us where there are some gaps or overages and things like that. So, you know, like the actual textbook online isn't like, this is page 1, page 2, page 3. We can say, okay, we're gonna do this at this time. We just move it up in here and everything could be printed off as well. But we do have the option of having like, we were asking for like a class set of textbooks, once we go through like the first year to kind of see how everything is working and everything.
Well, thank you for listening to my concerns. I think that's what we need to bridge, especially when things are just kind of always changing. I think it would be a good resource to have for you guys, just to be able to explain to parents where you're at. And then you could even set your scope and sequence up, maybe in the beginning of the year, and then have it on the internet or have it on a dashboard or something for your students and your parents to see the roadmap of success of how you're gonna teach that language.
I think what we could do too for the 30-day review is set up a device, maybe with a demo link in the main office, and then that way if people wanted to check it out, and that might be something that we
Right.
could ask the rep for, that we could keep live, and then maybe that demo link could even be on the.
I understand, thank you. It's just,
When we met with her, she did say she would provide a demo link for us. Obviously, she's not gonna like add the link for like the teacher resources,
Right.
like for the assessments and things like that, but.
Just
She
an
said they-
overview of
Yep,
the
yep.
product.
And I said we could leave that here with our books.
my suggestion is having a syllabus prepared for each
For
course.
sure. Yep.
Chris?
Yeah, you have 1,200 student subscriptions. I'm assuming that's annually, not over 6 years, because then it would only be 200 students and I would be confused. So, but 1,200 subscriptions annually, we have that kind of enrollment in the languages?
From sixth grade all the way through.
Yeah.
Right, yep.
So
That's
That was
very
all
heartening
middle
to me.
schools, high school.
I wouldn't have guessed that we have that much support for foreign language, only because of the technical world we live in. Not because I don't think learning a foreign language isn't a good idea, but, you know, everybody thinks you could just talk into your phone and it will translate for you these days, so.
there's more to it.
Okay,
And we
thanks.
still have to like work on getting the up-to-date numbers and everything, and when we were going back and forth with her, we asked about like with the sixth grade, since they don't have it for a year, if we could have just like half of the subscriptions, because we could just roll like.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so she, you know, talked to their team and they said that would be okay, so like.
Okay, good.
I could save a little bit.
Yeah, so
Great.
what I shared with you isn't the most up to date because, you know, she went back and reworked some of those with less subscriptions, but again, I don't
And we
know.
can put that forward to the full board when
Well,
it comes to after the 30 days.
I'm just glad that it's a rational number.
Help me here a little bit. I studied French and Latin in the 1950s. So that puts it in a sort of a different perspective than, using the thing on screen. But, the thing that was really necessary was drill when I was learning the languages. And I took the textbooks home every night. And they don't take books home every night. So how do they get to practice?
We practice as much as we can with the time that we're together, for sure.
Okay,
We
okay,
always recommend that they work on it outside of class.
yeah,
And I also actually had some of my students test this out on the phone to see if it would work, and some of the activities that we were doing, because we we're doing some practice,
Okay.
just playing around with it a bit, and they can do like the like vocabulary type things, and I'm thinking that the other things would be available as well.
Okay, yeah.
So do you have a price at all?
We do, it's kind of a package deal with the professional development each year and the curriculum alignment.
So I'll speak candidly, I'm completely in support of this, but I will not vote yes unless I know the price. And then how you broke it up with the 6-year licensure, because that's a long time. So if,
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, we don't have.
Sure. I can maybe add to the 6-year thing. Mr. Phipps, we had the 6-year licenses now, since we have our curriculum adoption cycle created.
Yeah.
We essentially are looking at each adoption as a 6-year license. Yeah,
6 years.
that's why the 6 years.
It's the
I mean, we could do 5 years as well, it just was, like, they didn't include as much of like the professional development or the course alignment, everything, so it's all.
By fulfilling a 6-year agreement too, they give us a $50,000 discount on products. So it'll be approximately $40,000 each year for both Spanish and French licenses. So just to give you some context, we have some social studies department, like our high school social studies department currently has a ongoing license for Discovery Ed, which is just a solely, not really even a great curriculum. It's a supplemental curriculum, which are some things that these ladies have used, like supplemental online tools. A Discovery Ed license is $15,000 annually just for, for a supplemental resource. So by moving toward a more consistent, congruent curriculum, we're going to be able to alleviate the need for all of these piecemeal additional licensures and things too. So it ends up
40,000 language?
no, total for
Oh, 40,000 total.
20-ish.
Because the
Per lady.
ELA for 6 years.
So it's actually the
780,000.
newest quote with
This is
additional
gonna be cheaper
savings
than that, right?
was 141 for 6 years. So with the
Holy
With the
wow.
6th graders now.
That's gotta be a
having
bargain,
a 3-year
right?
license.
okay, so your number, because I've heard a couple numbers now, so I'm hearing 141 for a 6-year license with the discount for the 6-year license.
Yes.
That's the
that
total
was the
price.
newest quote here that just shared.
And does it matter if you lift the subscription amounts up or down depending on the enrollment? Or, because that's what I'm worried about, they're quoting you at 1,200 students and then all of a sudden you lose, or you go up,
We talked about
you gotta
that.
pay less if you gotta go up and then you don't get refunded if you go down?
Yeah, we talked about that, which is why we're waiting on like our solid numbers so that we can kind of estimate kind of like conservatively with it, because you don't get a refund,
Thank you.
but you can
You
can add
You
it.
completely understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
That also
Yeah, we-
includes 6 professional development days and then their curriculum alignment services, 7 days of that. And then 1 curriculum alignment per course is included in that cost. So that $141,000 cost is for a total of 940 licenses, so.
Oh, yeah.
So that wasn't in, that's why I asked all those questions, John.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad you did. Is there any other, yes?
Move to recommend for approval.
Okay, 1 second.
Yeah, I'll say.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
thanks a lot. I mean, it really should make, it should make it easier to be fluent in Spanish. Well, Spanish and French.
You want to practice, you
Spanish has
something
got a
in
whole French is
straining.
nasal, yeah.
Turn off the subtitles.
All right, thanks a lot for coming. Yeah, that's much appreciated. So the world languages, we're gonna, we'll put that on the agenda just to approve.
Mhm.
All right,
And then.
and social studies, 9 through 12 social studies is still on review. So we're not taking any action on that now.
Well, it'll go on the 30-day review if you approve to move forward to that. So,
Okay,
Yep, and then it will go after the 30-day review, then it would go to the full board for approval. So,
okay.
Mr. Johnson is very sad that he can't be here tonight, but he is chaperoning the spring training baseball baseball trip right now. So, you know, it's
I don't
85
think
or
he's that
90.
sad.
It's probably rubbing it into Molly. It's wonderful and warm.
So does the board have to take action on that, to approve the 30-day review?
Yes, you
Okay.
could say that you're in favor of the 30-day review.
All right, is there a motion?
Move to recommend for 30 days.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that's good.
I would like to think that if Casey was here, you'd just grill on the last part.
Wait, we're going easy on you.
Thank you very much.
So summer school update. Summer school is like, it's being transformed as we sit here. I mean, it's like from last year, which, was a real, a gag sort of a summer school. Nobody wanted to do it, and it was pretty dull. It was only at certain schools. This year, it's going to be at all the elementary schools. And it's going to be energizing and exciting and highly intellectually developmental.
Yes, and I'll add a few things to that. We are excited to have teacher leaders at every elementary this year. Instead of last year, they tried having a summer school elementary principal that was trying to go between 6 buildings, and that was a lot to try to do. So I am excited to be the summer school coordinator, if you will, for elementary, and be working with the principals and the teacher leaders. Each school is having its own unique theme for summer school. We definitely have reading and
And
writing.
anybody can pick what school they want to go to, right?
Nope, they're supposed to go to their home school.
Okay.
We really want to do that. We want to try that out this
You
year.
want to build community.
Yep, we do. And we're hoping that if kids are able to go to summer school at their own school, instead of having to choose one north side or south side location, that we'll have a higher attendance. Today, summer school registration opened, and we had 131 students enroll in summer school today for elementary. So that's pretty exciting for day one.
Yeah, pretty exciting to do one. How many kids normally sign up for summer school?
That's a really good question, Carrie. I'll look into that.
Oh, yeah, that's okay.
I don't know that one. I was wishing I did as
I would think this one would be pretty attractive, but,
This is my first time with summer school.
all right, that's
So
okay.
I've got to get my feet wet, but I am going to find out tomorrow
Wasn't this something to be anti?
how it compares for first day enrollments, because that seems pretty good to me. The ladies in the office were watching it all day. It was kind of like we were watching a sporting event, as the numbers were kept shouting out the updates. So we're very excited to see things moving in a positive direction for summer
No
school.
wagering.
No wager.
No wager, okay. So for the board meeting, you'll just make a report and say summer school is, boy, since we talked last, it's gone up all this much, and, yeah,
And I'll have some comparison numbers from last year.
okay, that's fine. Okay, that's great. Behavioral data. I'm really interested in this.
Yeah, so this is probably about the third time that I've had the opportunity to bring to you a little snapshot of where we're at in regard to student conduct or behavior data. So I'll go briefly through these slides and then give you an opportunity to come and ask some questions, whatever you might need. The first page is a snapshot of our internal Infinite Campus data. So those charts are small. My apologies for the size, but I wanted to give you a chance to space to write below if you needed to. But it looks at total referral entries in Infinite Campus. The top chart is end of year 2023-24. The bottom chart is up to end of March 24-25. So essentially 3/4 of our school year of data, as we have 1 quarter left in the school year. So I'll just point out it has some different numbers for each building about how many referral entries they have in each building, and then some totals. And then it breaks down, I broke down the top 5 incident types in our district. So you'll see last year assigned area, That's a secondary issue, where students are not in their assigned area when they are assigned to be so. So it's definitely more of a secondary issue than it is an elementary issue. Destruction, misuse of property, it's typically vandalizing, breaking things, that sort of thing. Disorderly conduct, which, as you know, looks very different when we're entering disorderly conduct as an incident type for a first grader. Is it very different than a seventh grader or an 11th grader? Then we have instigating a disruption. That's typically something that is interrupting or disrupting the learning environment. And insubordination. This year, we're seeing that our most frequent behavioral incident types are assigned area again, disruption, misuse of property, disorderly conduct, instigating a disruption, and then inappropriate language. So the nice thing about being able to disaggregate some of these types is that it allows our teams to be able to say, these are our top 5 offenses, what are we gonna do about it now? So being able to take a look at a snapshot every so often is it's really helpful because, as you know, sometimes it's impossible to feel like you can tackle all the things at a time, but if you can focus in and target one of these biggies to be able to try to do something about, put some proactive systems in place, it allows you to feel a little bit more like you can manage what it is you need to manage. Also broke down some grades, and I'll get into the specifics of some of that later, but I think you can see that last year, 3rd, 5th, 6th, 7th, 9th were sort of our bubbles of where kids seem to be struggling with their conduct in school. This year, right now, it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if we're thinking about a level of student that we really need to target, it's that middle level. It's those big transition years too. 6th grade, a jump from elementary to middle school. It's a big jump. And then looking from, again, 8th to 9th grade. And then how are we teaching expectations at those new levels for students? So these are not only ISS, OSS in our Infinite Campus, but they're also anytime a detention's issued, or anytime like a teacher is even intervening or supporting a behavior, but they're documenting so that we are collecting data. You'll see that there's a difference between our data and the number, this 4,133 right now that we're at for behavior referrals, and what the state is reporting. And that's because on the next pages, the state only looks at incidents that result in ISS or OSS. So they're only looking at those disciplinary removals from the classroom.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, please.
Why did you use year-end results for last year and then you went present to this year? That's not apples to apples in my head at all. We could have went last year to today as of last year, but you're missing, 60 days of school.
Right now we are, yeah, and I'll do an end of the year total again. We couldn't
Couldn't break it out probably.
Infinite Campus end on March.
You understand where I'm
30th,
coming from,
totally.
like, I'm not
So
trying
that's
to
why-
get
No, I
you, I
know.
got you. It's like, I don't have apples to apples at all with 60 missing days of data.
Yeah, so we have 800 fewer right now. So if you look at even, thinking that we have 3/4 of the
It'd be a
data.
bad 60 days if we got 800 more.
Great,
That's what you're trying.
And so I think,
75% is what
we're on track. If we're looking at, 25% more in each of these categories, we are on track to have significantly fewer behavior referrals at each of those levels.
Which is great.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're right, it's not apples to apples, which is unfortunate.
really
I
are.
think The
We
state
really
gave
are.
us more apples to apples.
Well, no, yeah,
Yeah.
we're doing good. It sucks that we couldn't have broke it out for a year.
Yeah, it's
Can-
difficult,
yeah,
but
can-
I'll come back at end of year, so we actually have the end of year.
So we can compare, yeah.
Yep. So then on the next page, this is our, again, state reported disciplinary removals, and it gives you 5 years of data there. So again, every year prior to this year's end of year totals, but the state does, they do polls, data polls on a frequent, regular basis. So they're pulling up to date data. So even though we have 24-25 school year there, it is up to date data. It's not year end data like the other years prior. Just to give you an example of this, so let's say nice round number, the MPSD has 4,000 students. We know it's more than that. But right now, 5.5% of our students, whole student population, have been involved in some sort of disciplinary removal, ISS or OSS. Out of a 4,000,
When you say removal, I mean, that's not expulsion, right?
just removal, in-school suspension or out-of-school suspension.
Okay.
It could be expulsion.
Okay,
So 5.5% of our students have been removed from their classroom environment or school environment for one of the reasons that we have cited in Infinite Campus or that the state pulls. So if we're using a nice round number like 4,000, it's about 200 kids who have, at all across the board, have experienced some sort of exclusionary disciplinary assignment. Go ahead, please.
200 kids or 200 incidents?
200 students.
Okay,
This is
all right.
saying 5.5% of our total school population
Gotcha.
has been involved in some disciplinary removal.
Thank you.
when did COVID hit? When did we go through that?
Well,
21?
2021 was the tail end where we started coming back to school in a blended way at about March.
All right.
So
So
that's why those numbers are so-
pre-COVID was 0.7.
That was COVID year.
That was a COVID year. Oh, I see.
kids don't fight when they're
That's right. Yeah,
At least
No
not-
trouble with kids that spring.
At least
yeah,
not.
all right.
And then, interestingly enough, if we look at, some of these years, so 2021 was COVID, at tail end of COVID. 23 was the first year in our district where we implemented the student code of conduct. We also implemented during 23 some more specific and explicit documentation of behavioral requirements. So, whenever you're drawing attention to or putting a system in place that draws attention to things, that data, we have more consistent, accurate data to look at.
So do these bars represent a greater frequency in bad behavior or just a better measure?
Could be a hypothesis as well, that we are collecting data more intentionally than we have in the past.
Okay,
But we also know that we have a significant rate of students who experience exclusionary disciplinary practices, out of school or in school suspensions.
so 24, 25, we're down to 5.5.
We've got a quarter to go.
We've
So
got a quarter to go.
I think we'll still be under where we were
Yeah,
last year, but we've got a quarter to go.
And do kids behave better at the end of the year, Karen, or at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I'm not
Right
better at the
now-
end of the year.
Right now, with having spring break as late as we do, we will be lucky if all of the whole people everywhere, adults and children, are not
We're lucky if they come
storming the.
Yeah, right.
You're in Florida right now.
Not that many.
Yeah, the baseball team is lucky enough.
Yeah.
The next page breaks things down by male and female disciplinary removals. Left side's our female population, right side's our male population. We got some work to do with our young men. And I don't think that's surprising to anyone, but now this gives us an opportunity to focus on we need to work intentionally on our young men. The next page are students who have been involved in 3 or more disciplinary incidents in a school year. So last year, we had 105 students who were involved in 3 or more disciplinary incidents. This year, we are down to 32 students who have been involved in 3 or more disciplinary incidents, which is a huge celebration.
Yep.
Because it means that the supports that we're putting in place for students, the behavioral plans that we're putting in place, the proactive nature of trying to stop some of these repeat offenders is really having an impact. So
Yeah, that's really
I think that's
Or they figured out how not to get caught.
for them.
Just kidding.
Probably true.
For that.
Jokey,
Then
jokey.
I
Okay.
so the student conduct incident type. Next page. So this is what these are the state categories. So our Infinite Campus qualifiers are a little bit more specific than what the state generalizes, but these are the state categories. So you can see sort of the frequency of incident types in 23-24. Alcohol-related, assault, dangerous weapon, drug-related, endangering behavior, other violation of school rules, for a total of 922 violations last year, according to what the state pulls. And then right
For
now,
all kids from
all kids,
grade 1 to grade 12,
K to 12, correct.
K to 12.
Well, pre-K to 12.
And they're, it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
These seem like fairly mature offenses.
And then right now, we are on pace for 424 incidents, which we got a quarter left. So we are again on pace for lower total incidents than we had last school year. The next page looks at some.
Could you-
Go ahead.
Just refresh me on how have you intervened since the end of 24? What new sorts of things are contributing to this?
If you can get through one more slide with me.
Okay.
Next page.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's coming
Okay,
up.
I'm sorry.
So the next page is, you've probably heard me talk about, like, we've had to come to the board about disproportionality or joint federal notification. So in addition to disciplinary reviews, the state and the federal government look at disaggregated data by subgroup. So we have been identified as over excluding disciplinarily our Hispanic, Black, and 2+ races students. So what that means is when we receive that notification of where we're at on an annual basis, then as a district, we are required to meet with DPI, come up with an action plan, and specifically look at what we're doing for these groups of students. I'm also required to notify you of that work. So this serves in a dual purpose, in that notifying you about where we're at, that we're looking into this data, and that we're also working with DPI right now in order to come up with some strategic plans. But you'll see that this breaks down in those 3 subgroups, make up a total right now of about 43% of our total disciplinary incidents. So again, when we're looking at this, that tells us that, 43% of our school population is not Hispanic, Black, or 2+ races. So what that's telling us is that when we're thinking about putting systems of support and tools in place for students, we also need to be mindful of some culturally responsive practices that, we're understanding how to support the needs of all learners in our district. Next, what we've done this year.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you define if the infraction was merited under basis of not meeting the students' needs or having barriers in place? Do you declare if there's an incident, if it was because of a lack of barriers or of an infraction of the code of conduct?
Really, when we're thinking about barriers, that's the response plan. So the infraction is the infraction. And then what we do to support that student is what comes next.
I'm saying you document the type of, the way that it happened. Are you documenting it so that you can articulate if it's possibly a conduct violation or if it was a barrier that was in place that shouldn't have been there?
I guess I'm not totally
Yeah, you're not.
Yeah, you're asking for motivation, right?
No, I'm saying if the state is telling you because you have a group of students, because they're being grouped in their race, they're saying, oh, now you need to fill out more reporting because you have possibility of a different race that is maybe being, I don't know, maybe they're saying it's being discriminated. And I'm saying, well, are we reporting what the motivation behind the infraction was?
I mean,
Yeah, thank you.
we
You
typically,
understand what I'm saying?
we typically document the infraction, which is the infraction. So if there's a physical altercation, we document the physical altercation and the details of that physical altercation.
what it gets reported is that in the student demographic data that just accompanies the student that's going to be assigned to that, it goes to the, that's what's reported to the state, is that this many kids with disabilities engaged in this many females, this many kids that are Black, that sort of thing. What we do then through the process is that we say, what kind of plan do we need to put in place to support that student so they're not getting in a physical altercation? Because a physical altercation is a physical altercation.
Yep.
But what this is saying is that we are suspending and/or removing from the learning environment our Black, Hispanic. They're just giving us that information.
That's what I'm saying. Why are they putting them in groups and trying to say you need to remove the barrier then?
There's a lot of subgroups, socioeconomically
Sure.
disadvantaged, females, people with disabilities, there's all sorts of subgroups, as you know.
Fair enough.
But these are the ones that the state is saying, we're kicking out of school at a higher rate than other students. So all it's saying is, be mindful of that.
Yeah.
And when you're putting plans in place, like how are we supporting these groups of students so that they're not removed from the school setting at a higher rate than their peers? That's
So-
That's where what I'm saying is, well, if the infraction is the infraction, who's to blame? The infraction?
Yeah.
The behavior? Or that we're not supporting the opposition of that behavior? That's where we're kind of getting in the responsibility game and the lack of responsibility for the
Yeah.
individual or for the demographic of the group.
Yeah.
You don't know how many altercations are a consequence of bullying, for example. Do you know that? Or is that data?
Bullying, harassment is something that happens, but it's not the most frequent on our list.
Okay, but
So-
I think what Matt is getting at is cause and effect.
I think but the state is not saying,
Okay, as long as,
so the state isn't telling us like, don't have consequences or,
Yeah.
plans for kids because of their race. They're not saying that.
Right.
What they're saying is that this group of kids is kind of struggling to meet the expectations and the code of conduct in your school district. So evaluate what your practices are so that maybe we can put supports in place that specifically target some kids so that they're not struggling to meet our expectations. Like, how are we helping them meet our expectations?
so give me an example quickly, because you were a specialist in this department, that's why I'm asking you.
Yeah.
So give me an example of something that you used funding for to try to help reduce this instance.
So we've been working a lot on our multi-level system of support, MLSS. So what that does is that puts teams in place who specifically look at student data. We've purchased through SFA, we had Getting Along Together, which was the social emotional learning curriculum. We actually just met on Friday with a team of elementary principals and all the school counselors and the behavior interventionists in order to look at another curriculum because they felt that piece was so valuable and that consistency across elementary bounds. So we're looking at those curriculum tools so that we can continue to talk about, working cooperatively in groups in the classroom setting and getting along, having strategies to resolve conflict, having, resiliency skills taught, all of those things, so that we're in a position where we're trying to be more proactive in teaching expectations through those team time works, through some curricular resources, staff development time, that sort of thing.
I just want to add, I think it's kind of that, at the end of the day, the data is the data. And so a little while ago, Katie was talking about how when you're looking at the students that are most likely to be having behavior issues, we're noticing that it's middle school. It's 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that seem to be struggling the most. So we know we need to do something about that. We know that when we're prioritizing our behavior dollars and our staff, that 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are probably a good target for us. And this state is helping us identify that, oh, by the way, you also have these minority groups that are also showing up the most in the data. So in that same way that we would look at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, we also need to look at our minority groups that are struggling the most and say, why might that be? What more support might these students need? So I think it's the same sort of thing where it's like, hey, this is showing up the most. So let's
What are you
look at
gonna
that
do?
and what should we do?
And so when you're doing the tally, my question would be like, wow, this is going down. Is it going down? Is it going down with minority groups, or is it going down with
Social
social economic kids?
It is going, like, the exclusionary disciplinary practices, yes, are going down in some of those other marginalized groups. We're not notified or on notice for some of those areas. We are on notice academically for students with disabilities, graduation rate for students with disabilities, some other, there's some other academic indicators that we also are notified, test participation at the high school level, some of those kinds of things, so.
Yeah, that's real interesting.
ELA
I noticed
proficiency at the high school.
the sort of intervention stuff is pretty plentiful, and,
And then the
and I'd
last,
like to, I mean, in some ways, the data may verify the effectiveness of this.
well, that's why we review it.
Yeah,
on a
yeah,
consistent
yeah.
basis to see if what we're doing is working. I think there is some support to having that consistent social emotional learning curriculum across the board at the elementary. I think we can say that having GAT, getting along together, also known as GAT, as part of the SFA curriculum was that was something that we are seeing some gains on. So again, the commitment to continue to pursue another elementary social emotional learning curriculum seems to be helping reduce some of those incidents of behaviors. Something else that, just as we've really beefed up what we call the Revive program this year. Revive is our off-site program for students who really are struggling in the traditional school setting, and they could be for significant disruptions to the learning environment. It can be as minimum as a 45-day placement, or it can be a school year as a student who maybe needs to participate in some different programming because they have been engaged in a pre-expellable type of thing, like not quite expellable because it's not like a big three, but multiple physical altercations, maybe an incident with a staff member that, we're trying to show that safety is of the utmost importance for everybody. So at the Revive program, it's staffed by one full-time FTE teacher. She's formerly called like our homebound or neutral site teacher. But we have some parameters through Revive about independent coursework completion and requirements, engagement in decision-making and problem-solving curriculum. They spend half days at the Stengel building. It's a much smaller group environment where we can work on social skills and continue to make academic progress. We have had some elementary kids there this year, which is like the first time ever because of some incidents, and I think those are the types of incidents that give behaviors in students a bad name. They're very, very rare, but, I think we're seeing that some of the intensity and some of the behaviors is bigger than it has been. And that really is something that we need to think about intervening in too. Matt?
So the last 15 minutes, I think, is what you guys just did about how you articulated, how you guys have stuck your neck out and you're trying to make improvements, and you've looked at, your information and you've made decisions. I think that's very, very valuable at meetings. I think that is what I would like to hear more of
More frequently?
Well, from a perspective that you guys are taking chances with educated data behind it, and you're gonna be making changes, instead of just giving, because otherwise it's just a shelf document that you gave us right now about the data about how behavior is. But I think when you explain and articulate the new things that are working and the things that you're trying, even if you do not succeed completely, it's still better than just kind of being quiet and giving just a overview of the situation. I enjoy the conversation and you guys being able to articulate what the plan is and what has worked and what hasn't worked as well. So thank you for your efforts. I need to know that you guys are trying not necessarily new things, just that you're doing things that are really exciting in your fields, but it's just sometimes challenging as well.
So could we, on the staff survey, I mean, disruptive behavior was the number one thing mentioned in the negative part of this, of the survey. And I would like to know, we don't know if most of those came from people that were teaching 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, do we? Do we know that?
We could probably dig into some of that, like what
I mean,
buildings,
you know-
what buildings reported that.
Oh, yeah, building wise, sure.
Building wise, I
Yeah,
mean,
we
we could
could,
go in
okay.
our middle school.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and that likely is the case.
I would say that's slightly
For the
the
number of
case. My bet would
incidents
be,
are
higher. Yeah, the people that taught basically middle school. are the
There's a
ones that are-
statistic on the last page
Pitching the
there,
most,
like in
yeah.
our reflections.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
It's the first bullet point there, that when we're looking at our middle school data, right now, 54% of our behavior referrals are at the 6th grade of all of
really?
6th grade's hard.
all
It's hard.
of our behavior referrals.
That's what I, that's what I said about cages.
Well, yeah.
That is a tough, I mean, that it says, like, that speaks so much to us to say, holy moly, how are we getting kids ready for middle school?
Yeah.
You know, there are high rises that eliminate the 13th floor because
Yeah,
it's bad luck. So
Those are in Japan.
if we were to get rid of 6th grade,
yeah, right,
Just
farm it
farm it
out, just farm it out, yeah.
Leapfrog.
well, they could keep them home then.
Well, 10 years ago, it used to be 7th grade probably.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
First year of middle school.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's also why like our 9th graders are the
Yeah.
next,
Yeah.
the next
The next-
top of the line.
Yeah.
But it, I mean, this just gives us a great chance to say, okay, what do we need to do here?
No, I
Again, our
really- yeah.
boys are gonna require some targeted intervention. I already mentioned that, you know, look, in some reflection and possible hypothesis of our elementary numbers going down, it's that, you know, 2nd year of consistent implementation of some social emotional learning. We are gonna continue our multi-level systems of support work, that's CISA 7 led and driven. We've got a data dig, district-wide data analysis and dig scheduled for August, and then the following days our MOSS system where we look at academic and behavior systems of support. We are going to work to improve our coaching model and practices so that we're supporting classroom teachers and effective classroom management.
You're
practices.
coaching teachers, right?
Yes, yep. And then this is sort of cool and I'll have way more information for you, but a team of people led by Steph Boncher and Lynette Seminar
Oh, yeah.
acquired a Recovery High School grant for us.
It's a big
It's
deal.
a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And it is going to allow us an opportunity to expand programming for those students who are removed from their typical or traditional high school setting because of credit recovery issues, AODA recovery issues, and really help intervene because a number, as you can see from the state data, we've got drug-related offenses, a lot of them in our buildings, mostly at the high school level. You know, we have, and those things present such a safety problem that we have to remove students who engage in those incidents from our learning communities. We have to have drug-free, safe learning environments. So how can we support students in changing some of those substance abuse habits and patterns? And this grant is gonna be great. So we have a sizable chunk of money for planning that needs to be spent pretty quickly. As soon as the planning piece is over and that plan goes to the state, then we'll receive our sizable amount of money for operations for the next 3 years. So as soon as we've got that plan, that will come to this group, probably at the May curriculum review meeting. And then you'll know the timeline for what's happening, what the planning process is, how much we get for that, what the plan is moving forward for implementation, and how much we get for that.
Yeah, I've been on the board probably the longest of anybody now. And I must say, I'm really happy about this. This is the first time I've seen any really thoughtful, you know, consistent action being taken to address a, you know.
We've got a great team that are really committed.
Well, really, it really is,
I
it's
mean,
really been pretty impressive. And
interventionists and counselors and whatnot. I mean, there's just a ton of people who are really passionate about
but
this.
you've been on in the Manawha Public Schools much longer than I've been on the board, is this really is the first time, isn't it?
I think, that- yes,
Always
because.
wanted to.
Yes, we've wanted to for a long time, like this meeting that we had on Friday where we were talking about actually having a solid expectations, which we kind of did some dabbling in PBIS, some people did it, some people didn't, but to have something that is systematic, that we're saying, yep, we're all doing this, but not just this tier one stuff, getting to that point where we've got plans for kids that are struggling beyond what we can do for them at the
Oh,
university.
yeah, it's so good, so
And
good.
I think,
I mean,
you know,
it's a real reform.
the link too, right, and I
Yeah.
hope you see it, is, you know, it's clear, it's consistent, and it's congruent. No different, and this is getting everyone on the same page.
Exactly, yeah, and
And
that was
so-
the other bitch
Which
too,
the-
it's like
which
it's
the
never
curriculum-
consistent, yeah.
Curriculum
But
is also.
now, I think we're getting, the whole school system is starting to get
That's what happens.
consistent and comprehensive.
And I think, we know that we've got some inconsistencies in data documenting, like at some of our buildings. So that's our plan, is to be very insanely clear about what goes into Infinite Campus and then what those plans are as a follow-up.
Yeah.
And that way, that just gives us better, more, apples to apples, because it's hard to look at data when it's not apples.
Yeah. But I personally really I'm happy about this and I really appreciate your work.
Yeah, Heidi just mentioned our dashboard, so when there's a data dashboard, there will be behavior data that will be able
Okay.
to adjust appraise work.
Better.
So,
Whatever that, yeah,
Real time.
real time.
Yeah.
Real time. Yep.
anyway,
Any other questions?
any other questions? Any other issues for the committee?
Nope.
Having none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I do have one question,
Oh.
maybe just, is a great one. What would you like of this shared at the full big board meeting?
I'll articulate my points again, if you don't mind, good.
Yeah, okay, sure.
So I would enjoy, or I would prefer an articulated explanation of where you've come from.
Okay.
And the efforts that you've made, and some of the bad things that you've learned, and some of the good things that you're seeing. And I'd try to get your apples to apples a little closer, so that you can kind of, and you can still compare to, like you said, 75%. But I'm gonna say it's not equally distributed between the behaviors. The behaviors happen toward the beginning of the year and toward the end of the year. So I think that's would help. But I think everything has to be given as it's a priority to the district, because I think it's one of the biggest priorities from our strategic plan to
Yeah.
improve our behaviors. So articulating that you've done things, that some things work really well, some things that haven't worked, but you're cohesively working together to solve this, and then being able to show real-time data of how things are happening, like that dashboard would be really nice, but
I appreciate that. So link the whole thing and then maybe just have like some extra talking points.
20 minutes or 15 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of a
I think
huge
this is
deal.
this is a
You're
hot,
right.
yeah.
I think if you want to keep the momentum of the staff to be bought into it all, you have to continue to keep it at the forefront. But that's just my opinion.
No, that's good. Was there a second on the amendment?
I seconded it.
Okay.
First did it.
Chris?
Who first did it? I
Yeah.
first did it.
Oh, you're doing.
I like
you're
that.
doing
I'm gonna use that in the future. Thanks, I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, that was good.
Thanks for the-
All those in favor? Aye.
I
All right. We're
I'm
done.
just waiting for Chris's appointment.
I appreciate
I
it.
would just-
I just want to say, all of that discussion after the motion and second was inappropriate. By Robert's rules, once you have
Mr.
a
Roberts,
motion
Mr.
and a
Roberts,
second
yeah.
to
That
adjourn,
was my fault,
there
Dennis.
is no further discussion on anything.
My apologies.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Now let's go.
I just like being able to be snooty about it.
This is probably your last time.
Mr. Tennis, I have to ask a request.
Yeah, sure.
You promised me a half hour.
Oh, I suggested.
I suggest give me a break.
Expenditures for-
You promised.
Well,
I'm not gonna sing it.
is your supper gonna be cold when you get home or what?
Actually, by.
we'll figure that out.
If I could just.
Oh, good for you. Well, get the hell out of here.
Easy, easy. I'll have it for you by Tuesday for sure. Yes,
You can send it, you can do paper, if you don't want to do email, you can do paper, I don't really.
I did.
Oh, yeah.
Just for
No,
myself.
I had a lot.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think tomorrow I'll finish it.
Essentially, we did the one.
Did you?
Page mailer to everyone.
I'm not-
So whatever that cost.
Yeah, there's no Achilles heel discovered here.
I see. You want to know how much time he spent on that? Not much.
That's what I would like to report with.
He's been doing all the facilitation of the committees for the long range stuff, not really for the referendum. But I will be able to say, and here's what I'll do.
Yes.
His hourly rate was like 170. You ask about. What I can tell you is we have a 1 hour. I did the one that's now spent 5 to 10 minutes of that hour talking about the referendum. The rest of it's on planning. So yesterday, so basically.
Okay.
We'll get how much money you spend on season 10.
Okay, do I automatically log off?
Artwork and stuff.
So
that's all.
It's Friday at 11:30,
So
right?
that's not.
For you,
that's
yeah,
not a-
that's not us.
No, no.
You're coming in earlier.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna be here.
Sure,
I will be the first person to arrive to greet them because that's just breaking.
Well, I wanted to see if you were
Yeah,
under that. Where you're
it's just
at.
being-
If you're close to 20, under 20.
Oh, we're
10
under
at
20.
5.
We're under 20.
Because you need to use
I
that.
like that sweater.
Thank you. I'll let my
Any
mom.
superhead,
She
you
right
have that in the back pocket.
She got it for me.
Next.
I told her I liked it.
Oh, right. Oh, I agree. So you're just wanting to know because I what is so far with this from? I
So
said,
I'm saying, if you do something in-house.
Yeah.
Compared to hiring Nexus as a contract company.
Okay.
And then
to do the
giving,
promoting and all
and then, because their sales tactic is they're gonna pass it.
Yeah. We barely spend anything compared to what.
That's what you need to have, all
Yeah.
that, and maybe that's just for yourself too.
Yeah.
You need to have that, if it passes.
Yes.
You need to have that so you can say, this is what we spent to pass it on, compared to, we would have gave 4 million to Nexus.
Yeah, okay, I'll have that for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I've got a thing tomorrow.
It's a behavior thing, that's why.
When did you buy? Oh, yeah, I know you did, yeah, I know you did.
Oh, I can look at my calendar.
Can we see my
Thank you, yes.
Thank you for.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. You take care too.
It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you. Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Okay. No. And tomorrow, we have YA interviews, but well, we can do it after that.
I'm done by that, with that by 1:50.
Yeah.
It's that track, I'm free at 1.
No, you can just stop in, we'll have it.
Mike's
Yeah,
also.
yeah.
I can't do it. Oh, sorry, I'm done at 1:50, so I.
Absolutely.
If we.
Starting tomorrow, we'll have it out.
1:50.
Yeah, right on.
Start at 1:50.
Yeah.
Mike's
I
busy
don't
at
know.
2:15, how many minutes do you need?
I only need a few minutes.
So why don't we do,
I'll leave, I won't go to that last YA interview.
do you want to do
How about that?
1:45?
Yes.
1:45, okay?
1:45 is good.
1:45, do you need a calendar invite?
I do, for sure.
Yeah, I do too. Thank you.
If you're doing one, send me one, but,
I'm sorry, all right.
you're one of 2 things I got scheduled tomorrow.
I will go, I think I had something, and then if it's not there, I will.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
So we said 1:45?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, I'm sending an invite to you. Jen.
Thank you.
No worries.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
I'm gonna give us 15 minutes, is that all right?
15 is plenty, because the rest of it would just be me blithering and, being stuff.
We don't need any lettering.
I'll save that for next Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, I did that.
You didn't hear it.
Somebody.
The school board, I was giving
Oh.
crap. I was giving crap, yeah. I know, it could happen, so. Then I was just giving them shit when we were talking, because I act like I'm gonna be here for like another. I'm going, gee, like, we need to get this crap figured out, and I'll be gone in 2 weeks, so I just said that, Chris, I made a comment quietly, I said, well, you never know if Chris needs to appoint somebody, so. They'll never appoint me into the school board, but if there was, say, Carrie died or something.
I'm sorry, just gonna say that.
We don't know if he's gonna live for the rest of his term.
He said he's not gonna rerun, he told me that, so.
Well, he can tell you anything. He-
Oh, that's what I mean. But, so, yeah, no, yeah. A lot of signs, you guys did really good on signs. I think.
I had more, we had about 50 stolen.
Really?
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
you're right.
Mhm.
Well, I saw the billboards and everything, and I saw everything. I've kind of been out of it though, because I've been trying to focus on family and stuff, but, and then, you know, the Republican Party, like, yeah, but I couldn't believe how Elon Musk was in Green Bay on Sunday, and like, we need this, rabbit out of the hat to get the Supreme Court passed.
You would tell them. Like, protesters on all sides of the roads.
Where'd you go?
We went to Green Bay,
Oh, you did?
we were going to, but the line was so long, it went all the way to this bridge, and it would have just taken us hours again, so we were like,
Yeah.
and it was raining, it was windy, so we were like, no, we're not doing this. So we had our fun, we drove past all the protesters and we were yelling, "Go Trump."
They were yelling Nazis and,
Yeah.
you know, all kinds of stuff, had signs and it was just.
And then what else did I want to say quickly? Yeah, it'll be, I have no idea where the referendum's gonna go.
I think because it's spreading it, that your taxes aren't gonna get raised.
And they sent out
always-
that,
No.
and they sent out 2 text messages.
They're not the only one, I got one of the text messages.
I got
too.
both of them, yeah.
I don't know if I told him. Tony wants to, I love him, but it's like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah,
you have been funding your opposition the whole time.
yeah.
Yeah, you can probably tell which way we voted with the
Well,
referendum.
I just don't understand. I love him. It's just like, you can't support something when you're gonna be funding them. And I would have been, okay, we're gonna do a $10 million one or something, we'll do a $5 million. We didn't get if we would have got the consolidation plan, I would have been vocally, I'd be like, okay, yeah, we have a clear plan, and we're gonna reduce government. But everything's just been government bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just like, nobody sees it. That's why I like what Elon and Trump have been saying the last 3 months. They're actually telling everybody the truth. If
Yeah.
we don't fix this, we are going insolvency. And like, if people don't wanna listen to them now, but if we don't fix this, we're not gonna have a government. We're gonna be tokens to China or whatever, whoever buys the rest of our debt. Like, people don't understand how bad it really is. And like, when you're on a campaign trail, you can't even talk about how bad it really is, how bad inflation really is, how bad this whole institution really is.
Right.
Because then you're looked at, oh, that's why, like, it's just like, it's bad. Like, who is in the fight who is, and then the parents gotta, you gotta have parents.
I know.
I'm telling you this because you love politics and like, you wanna make it this for life, but it's like, you gotta be careful that you don't you lose sleep. If I ran into another guy at Menards, and he's like, yeah, once I saw the interim superintendent, we knew that he was gonna be the finalist, and I said, we don't know that. I said, there's gonna be some interviews on Friday, and we'll see. All we need is that if the wild card is what, he always keeps his cards really close to himself, but if he votes the way that he might have a different superintendent.
That'd be nice.
It'd be weird, I tell you that. I'd get to help pick 2 superintendents in 1 term. But I'm saying, like, it's not a shoo-in. Like,
It shouldn't be.
we have really good candidates. And one of them, they're never gonna do it because of his background. But he preached how education needs to be measured by, by how good the district is, not only in their scores, but how much their recruiting ability and being competitive with other districts, like just straight up capitalism.
Yeah.
Like, and he's working for a private school system right now, but like 2 of the board members said they would never be able to vote for him, but he had all the answers and he knew everything about everybody. He was talking about meetings, he did his research completely. He brought up comments that Biff made, that Tony made, that I made, and he was, he was comedic too. Like,
Yeah.
he actually was able to personal and stuff, but I don't think it'll work for him, but yeah, all we need is 1.
So can you tell me the ones that you have interviewed? In person, one way or the other, or?
I'm telling you, it is gonna be a 4-3 vote. And And it might, if, it'll come down to Chris. Chris. If he, you know, he's like, he keeps his cards and he like kind of takes people out too, but.
Yep.
And I think Chris, so. If, it'll come down to Chris, because I'm good with either one. And, if Chris doesn't like me, I'll vote for it, and I will vote for that too. And then they're great candidates, like. So there will be some bitching and fighting on Friday, but I think the rep, they wanted to get their, see, they admitted to me, Biff and Keith, they admitted to me that they screwed up. I said, you need to have your superintendent before you want to go for this referendum.
Yeah.
And they're like, no. And then all of a sudden, a month ago, they're like, yeah, we should have never done this, we should have appointed. I said, yeah, you would have saved $100,000 too, because you already got the contract with it. You would have made him certain. And now the vote will be over, and but if it passes, that'll probably pat them, I would say 10%, but I would really need Chris, vote for him. So, there's a lot of things going on, I'll tell you that. But- And then the high voter turnout because of Trump and Elon,
I hope so.
that's gonna help you
Yeah.
a lot. Hopefully, that helped you. I was 450 and I was there at like 10:30.
We went to
I
ours
think
at
Jerry
like,
said she saw you guys,
Who did?
my wife.
Oh,
She was there at 10, or she was there at like 1 o'clock to 12:30.
Oh, I think we went at 1:30.
yeah, somewhere around that time.
Have a good one, guys.
You too.
But yeah, so, what were number of you guys?
We were like in the
I
500s.
thought it said 590 something, yeah.
Yep, and that was a little past 1 o'clock.
I have the numbers, but anyways, you said 590?
Yeah, I think it was five.
Somewhere in the middle of the 500.
Yeah, so Manville Rapids, 350 for Biff back in the. So that's a heck of a, I don't even think I got 350.
Well, Paul got like 6,000 votes, so
6,400, yeah.
it's not.
I think, yeah, I don't think it'll be that high, but I'm just saying that. And then you see you got people that voted for him that didn't vote for, that voted for him.
Yeah.
So that's why you get Democrats that don't want from him either, or don't want the referendum, so that's why. If it does pass, that would be. And then they'll go after it again, and they'll wear the voters down, but then you could use that. People's. We go inside, but yeah, that's,